Well, hello there, and welcome back to the podcast video podcast. And I'm Braxton. My name's Braxton Reuter, and if you've never seen me before, this is what I look like. And basically, if you can understand that, what I've just said to you, then you could probably understand everything else that I'm going to try and speak about today. And if that's the case and you do understand, I've accomplished my mission, because that's really the only reason that I'm standing up here today, is for you to hear what has happened, what is possible, and the good news. And if you don't know what the good news is, then I'll tell you. And that's kind of what we're going to do here today. I'm going to tell you about the good news and basically what that is. The gospel is the good news. The gospel is a word that you have probably heard in church before, but I'm here to tell you, as a civilian, not inside the church, but just somebody who has heard this gospel for myself and gotten to really live it out, that I'm here to tell you about the good news. And so, it's kind of going to take a little turn here, because at some point today I plan on talking about a parable that has 10 virgins inside of it. The parable's about 10 virgins. And basically, a parable is a story that Jesus tells to the people that he's teaching, and it's basically a story, but it has a principle inside of it that he wants them to understand, and he uses the story to illustrate the principles that he has for the people to learn, to teach them the principles that he wants to teach them. And so he does these through parables, and the parable that we're going to read today is about 10 virgins, and basically them getting locked out and not being able to get back in. Some of them couldn't get into the feast, and I'll explain a little bit more on that. But basically, it's about the people who don't do what God says, and they get locked out of His presence. And we wanna, and I wanted to just kind of go ahead and say that, that we that we don't want to end up like that. And so we have to consistently change ourselves. And this consistent change makes up basically your relationship with God and being in His presence. And so we'll talk through all that kind of stuff today. That's the kind of stuff that we talk about on the video podcast video that we do here, that we're doing here right now. And because we don't have time for shenanigans, but we love them nonetheless. And so we're going to talk about the good news. I'm going to tell you, there is good news. First of all, it's Saturday morning. It's probably 9:30 right now. It's probably 9:30. And there's tornadoes and stuff. I don't know what time you're going to be watching this, probably sometime next week. But this is the day that all the tornadoes came. And I just want to go ahead and say, first and foremost, the tornadoes aren't going to be here in Oxford, Mississippi, where I am. But they are down south in Mississippi and all around us. So I just want to say, God be with those people, and whatever they lose and or whatever they gain, remind them, Lord, that you are the one who gives it and takes away. And so if you do lose your home or anything happens, I just want to say, first and foremost, I want to help in any way that I possibly can. So, if something happens and you need something, I'd be willing to throw my neck out and try and help you, because that's kind of what we're here for, is to help out our neighbors. So I just want to throw myself out there and say, if anything happens because of this tornado, that I'd be more than willing to try and help in any way that I possibly can. So now that that's out there, now that my services have been given to the public, my availability, and that's basically what we're supposed to do, is to serve other people. As Christians, the good news is you can have life, and you can have life in abundance, like life in the quantity, so much of it that you're so happy and you're content. But this takes you constantly reminding yourself and shaping yourself, because it's not just going to be sitting there and doing this thing like you're in the boat without having to paddle. No, you have to paddle, and it's exhausting. But that's how you get where you want to go. And so, unfortunately and fortunately for everybody, this good news that I have to tell you about is achievable. That's the fun part about it, and that's the part that everybody loves and cheers about. The part that they don't talk about is how hard it is and what you have to do, not necessarily how hard it is, because I feel like when you say things are hard, it scares people, but because it's not really that hard. It's just difficult. It's just going to challenge you. It's challenging. That's a better word. Not hard. It's not hard. It's challenging, I think, would be the more appropriate word to use in that circumstance. But all jokes aside, seriously, this is great news, and the good news is that, like I said, you having life, finding life in abundance is possible. The only catch is, because you're like, what's the catch? The catch is that you're gonna have to give up basically your ideas of how you thought this was going to go, and your whole life is going to be you serving other people, and you're like, I don't think I can do that. Well, just hold on, okay? Because I'm not saying that there's any chance of you doing everything you want and then getting close to, no. This is what I'm saying here. You have to put in the work to get the reward. But this reward is different. This reward is unachievable by solely on how you operate. So there's some levels to this. There's some components. But I can make it simple for you, or I can give you the more detailed version. There's always different ways to present circumstances, scenarios, ideas. There's different ways to present them. If I turn this light here, there's lights, and it gets a little darker. You see me in a different light than you do here, and I look different. Things change in the light, and so that's the idea of perspective. And so when you change, the light a little bit, things change. And that's kind of how we gradually grow in this good news, and operating in this good news. And so I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. We can if you want, but right now I'll just go ahead and tell you what the good news is, because I've been talking about it for so long and haven't really explained it. The good news is that you have a highway paved out that you can drive down if you so choose, that will lead to the truth. And the reason that I use the word truth in that scenario, because I could have probably filled in that blank with a few other words, but truth works because the truth is kind of the thing that you're seeking, that your heart so longs for, that place. The truth is how you get there. The truth is the highway, I should say. Because mind you, these are very complex, abstract ideas. So sometimes the only way that I can get this idea presented to you is just kind of float it up there and then arrange it while we get all the ideas floating. And so that's kind of how it is. The truth is the highway. and it's the way that you walk, and so many people have problems with this part of the description of what the good news is because they don't all agree on what the truth is. And so that's where abstract truth comes. I mean, that's where absolute truth comes in. And that's why so many people, I want to just go ahead and say, I think people have a problem with abstract truth because they don't want to have to do anything that they don't want to do. And that's basically the whole message of Jesus. But what they don't understand is that the reason that you're doing it is because it actually fulfills you in turn. Like the other side of after you get done doing what you're supposed to do, then you're fulfilled. Then you can be alone with a contrite spirit. I think contrite is a good thing. I shouldn't have used that. I don't never used that word before. But yeah, with the gracious, happy, thankful spirit. I mean, that service to the other people, you making it your goal when you go into work, when you go into dealing with anybody, when you are face to face with somebody else, you give them everything that you have and you let them know that you're here for them, and you try and be attentive and hospitable, and you do those things because that's what Jesus has called you to do. And you also do them because you know that they're going to bring peace in your life. That's the way to peace, is serving other people. And I'm not talking about physical comfort when I talk about peace. I'm talking about peace of mind. I'm talking about a blameless spirit. I'm talking about things that bring you peace when you're alone, so that you're not fighting these demons in your head or these things that hold you down and have you in chains. You don't have to fight with those when you're in the middle of, I don't know, it's so hard to explain without saying something that's not totally accurate. And that's why it's important to keep it simple. And so instead of keep going and explaining what we're going to do, I'm just going to tell you straight up what the good news is. And if you waited this long to hear it, I'm about to deliver it to you as fast as I possibly can, baby. You waited 10 minutes to hear something for 30 seconds, which isn't, we're talking about the 10 virgins, remember? The virgins, 10, there's 10 virgins. We're talking about the good news right now, and we're going to shuffle in there. Because like I said, this thing's going to take a turn. Because we're going to talk about the good news, and then we're going to talk about kind of some bad news for some people who don't accept the good news. And you're like, that's so exclusive. How could Jesus send people to hell because they don't believe in him? And it's like, well, like, it's not really unfair, because if he's the one who made this place and he's the one who made us, and he gave us a chance in the garden, and we ate the fruit, and our eyes were open to good and evil, and he's like, oh, they ate the fruit, and so now he's got to make all these accommodations, like some person who's not qualified to be in the workplace but somehow is, because somebody else made laws and regulations that say in HR, in my regulatory compliance class, they taught us about accommodations. My point is that you're making all these unnecessary accommodations. He could have just fired us. He should have just got rid of us. He could have just quit on us. But God, in the garden, after we ate that fruit, said, you know what? I'm going to try and make this work because I love you. And this is how much I love you. I wouldn't just throw you away. But I'm going to help you here. And so he sets out this place for us to, outside of the garden and outside of his direct presence, where we might come back into his presence again. Because basically, if there was a garden and this stuff is true, then you are basically in the middle of trying to get back to God. Because we were here with them at the beginning, and then we separated ourselves from them because of our free will, and our choice to choose the knowledge of good and evil over what he said. And so we chose to have good and evil, and knowledge of it, and to realize more stuff than we ever did before we ate the fruit. And that's not a good thing, but it's just where we're at. And we're constantly going to be working back to him if all that stuff's true. And so here's the deal. Here's why this absolute truth idea is important, because if that stuff is true, then everything else that you think is going on here is it doesn't matter what you thought or how you felt, and there will be no talking to God after this is over. And so that's why I say Jesus isn't a bad person because he said that people who don't believe in him are going to hell. It's like, no, if this stuff is true, then you sound like a moron, and it's just who's right, who's not. And you're saying, when you say you don't believe in absolute truth or even care about following Jesus or learning about God or knowing who he is at all, that you're going to gamble. And that is a scary thing, because let me tell you what, if you lose, then you're going to be the biggest loser of all time, and you're going to be the biggest loser forever. That's not good enough motivation for you to just switch sides right now. I wouldn't. I'm not scared of hell, like, especially when you haven't seen it, and it's just, you can chalk it up and justify in your mind. You can make it not scary until you get there. And so I'm saying, like, I'm just advocating for the absolute truth part of this, because I think that I've done the stuff that he said and operated in the light of this being absolute truth, and it's changed my life. And so if I can get to a place like this, and whether it's true or not, don't you think like you'd rather be there? And you're like, well, but here's this, not this, like, you're like, how could you just say that? This is how I can just say that, because I do believe it's true. But I'm going to go ahead and say, even if it wasn't true, and you wouldn't know either way, which is where I am technically operating in right now, that I probably would do that anyways. Because if you can get to a place where you're content and you're happy, and it came from me serving other people, and I'm starting to understand what his word means when he says he'll exalt the humble and he'll humble the people who exalt themselves, and that the greatest of these is the servant, and that the Son of Man came to serve and not to be served, and that the Son of Man is Jesus, and Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and he is the good shepherd, and he brings life in abundance, that the only way I'm going to get there is by serving people. And when I get there, I'm happy, even though I spent all my time serving the people and not doing what I wanted to do. And so that's what I'm here to tell you about, that there's a good news to get to that place that you wanted to go to. There's a good news that place, heaven on earth, peace of mind, actually having a clear way to operate, to walk in, and to know that in any situation, I'm to be worshiping God. That in my work, in my financial decisions, everything that I'm doing, if I serve God in, then that's a clear path for me to operate in. And I can have confidence, I can have certainty, I can have assurance. And gosh, those things are worth more than gold, than jewels, than anything precious. That stuff's worth more than treasure, dude. You can't buy that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that God gives to you when you operate in what he says. He gives you that thing that you wanted. No. Not the Ferrari, not the big house, because you don't really want that. He gives you the thing that you didn't know that you wanted. And that's why he's cool. And that's why I stand behind him, because he still loves you enough to give you stuff that you don't deserve, like mercy, like grace, like dying on a cross, even though most people aren't going to probably even care, and he would do it anyways. and that they're going to spit on him and flog him. He did it. He did it because he loves you, and because he was serving you, and because he was doing everything that God wants. He was doing his will. And God told Jesus what to do, and Jesus did it. And Jesus was glorified. And Jesus is our example of how to be glorified by God, because glory or shame, the opposite of glory, I would say, is probably shame. And you get one or the other. You're either honored when you step in front of somebody, or you're being shamed when you step in front of somebody. And that's why I know that you don't, because I'm just a human, and I'm just guessing that you don't want to be shamed, and you want to be honored. You want to be in glory. And God, the one who designed this whole place, the one who you want to listen to, because he knows all of the stuff. You don't. He does. He's the one who made it. And he's telling you, if you try doing it this way, you get torn up. But if you try doing it this way, then it works. It works. And he's told us the way that it works. He's told us that in the Bible. And I've told you countless time and again. And I'm just going to keep telling you, because that's my job and my service to you. It's part of it, that the greatest of every one is the servant. The greatest of all of them is the servant. And losing your life and taking up your cross and following Jesus, giving up your life, you actually find it. In giving up your life, you actually found it. Now, I'm going to give you a verse for that, where exactly that is in the Bible, because that's a direct quote. And so I'll find it and I'll put it in the description. I have to write that down. Anyways, the greatest of you, you know what? Here it is, right here. I think it's Matthew chapter 18. Anyways, I just totally lost my train of thought trying to look for that verse. But I'm telling you, it says whatever I just said that it said. I forgot, because I have like 3 different verses that I forgot right now that I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting right now. Anyways, sorry, that's kind of awkward. But yeah, so the greatest of everybody is the servant. The servant, living in servanthood, will bring you fulfillment. And the biggest problem with people is that they don't want to give up what they have, because they think that they're going to be unhappy while they're doing it, and so they just turn away. And I'm trying to bring you back, because I want you to understand like the truth and the light, and I want to show you that the light has overcome the darkness, and that hiding in the dark and doing that isn't prosperous to you over time. And I want you to prosper, and I'm telling you that my way, it's not even my way, it's Jesus's way, God's way. He has set this highway for us to operate on, and you can walk down it to find life in abundance, and that's what the good news is. Now, I got some bad news. It's not even bad news. It's just really a parable to warn you and to show you, what's going to happen at the end, to give you a picture of how God operates. So here's the picture of how God is operating. And he uses this parable to basically let us know what the kingdom of heaven is like. And this is what it says. Jesus says, "The kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamp and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 of them were wise. For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil. But when the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps, as the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, "There, here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise answered, saying, "Since there will not be enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy some for yourself." And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and they were ready. They were ready. Those who were ready went in with them to go to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. After the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." And so I think this is a message to us, directly telling us, hey, there's going to be people that take this lightly, and they think that they're okay to do whatever they want because their grandparents went to church, or they've been going to church for their whole lives, or they know who Jesus is, or whatever. There's going to be people who are just willy-nilly doing whatever they want and claiming Jesus that don't actually know him at all. And that's what I think God is warning us about when Jesus tells us that, hey, you need to be ready, and you need to be working, and you need to be doing this with your whole heart. You need to be participating in what I've set out for you, the road that I've put for you. You need to be walking it. And there's going to be people who aren't let in. Even though, they were there at the beginning and they forgot their oil, because they wouldn't have forgotten the oil if they would have been doing what they were supposed to be doing anyways. So he says stay on guard and stay alert. And that's kind of a shift, because I just told you about the good news, and then I told you that people are not going to be let in. And that's not really what I want to focus on today, but I do want to let you know that that's stuff that happens. And I don't mean to scare you, so that you can be aware of it, because what is known is manageable. And if I never told you and made it known to you, then you would never have been able to manage that part of your journey, that part of your life, that section of your experience, however you want to do it. I'm just letting you know so that you're aware of it. Anyways, that's where we'll end. I had to get the reading done because we haven't read in like 3 different videos in a row. So we need to finish Matthew at some point, because we've been here for like 6 months or so. Maybe longer. I don't even remember. But anyways, that's all I have to say, and we'll catch you on the next video.